Good morning, boys and girls. This is Miss Nancy coming to you from the Upper Chichester Library in Upper Chichester, Pennsylvania, and it's time for story time once again. Now, I've chosen 3 different stories to read to you today. One is called How Do Dinosaurs Say Goodnight? Now, this is kind of a short story, but the illustrations are just wonderful, and I thought you might really enjoy them. It's written by Jane Yolen and Mark Tague. And look at these illustrations inside. We can see all different kinds of dinosaurs. Here we have a Stegosaurus, we have Trichaeodon, we have Tyrannosaurus Rex, Dimetrodon. It's just one right after another, and they look very much like what they would have looked like in real life, but the artist has taken some license and colored them in very interesting colors. And even we have Triceratops on a bed reading a book. So this is the first one I will read you. I have 2 other books I will then go on with. But let's start with this. How Do Dinosaurs Say Goodnight? Now the illustrations are by Mark Tague, and it was written by Jane Yolen. And she wrote this for her own little dinosaurs at bedtime. And her little dinosaurs were named Madison Jane and Allison Isabel. How does a dinosaur say goodnight when Papa comes in to turn off the light? I'm sure that at some point you all have to go to bed too, and your father comes in and turns off the light. Does a dinosaur slam his tail and pout? Looks like he's very annoyed with his father, and he does not want to go to sleep. He's definitely pouting, arms crossed and all. Oh, look at this one. Does he throw his teddy bear all about? And see, there's Dad scratching his head. Well, his dinosaur starts throwing his teddy bear all over the place. Does a dinosaur stomp his feet on the floor? Well, there's Dad holding the teddy bear, and this particular dinosaur is stomping his feet everywhere. And does he shout, "I want to hear one more book"? A lot of times parents read stories to their children before they go to bed. Does a dinosaur roar? Oh, look at his mouth. It is open loud. Looks like he's roaring very hard. How does a dinosaur say goodnight when Mama comes in to turn off the light? And here she comes. There he is. He's got his teeth all ready to go there. Oh, look at him. Does he swing his neck from side to side? This is a dinosaur who's not quite ready to say goodnight, I don't think. Does he up and demand a piggyback ride? Can you imagine a piggyback ride from a dinosaur on your back? Does he mope? Does he moan? Does he sulk? Does he sigh? Does he fall on the top of his covers and cry? Oh, there he is. Now that is quite a picture of the dinosaur on the top of his bed, crying and crying. I think this is a dinosaur who does not want to go to bed. They turn out the light. They tuck in their tails. They whisper, "Good night." See, he's whispering goodbye night to his mommy. They give a big hug, then give one kiss more. And I think that's almost the end of the story. I can't seem to get this next page open. But that is how a dinosaur says goodnight. And, here we go. And here he is at the very end. Good night, little dinosaur, good night. And then here's the back of the book, the illustration with the window and the moon outside. I'll open the whole thing up for you to see. The story is short, but the illustrations are just great. I hope you enjoyed that. Now, the next story is a classic story called Aladdin and His Lamp. Now, it's a Disney version of Aladdin's Lamp that I thought was a nice story to tell you. It's adapted by Karen Kreider and illustrated by Daryl Baker. On a dark night in a faraway land, an evil man named Jafar and his wicked parrot were waiting. Here's the parrot. Soon a thief named Gazim rode up to them and held out the missing half of a scarab medallion. When Jafar fit the two halves together, thunder rumbled. In a flash of lightning, the medallion raced across the desert. Jafar and the thief followed the medallion to the Cave of Wonders. Gazim, bring me the magic lamp, Jafar ordered. But the thief didn't make it beyond the opening of the cave. The tiger god of the cave devoured him. Then the tiger god spoke. Only one who is worthy may enter here. The next morning, a poor, hungry young man named Aladdin and his pet Abu, here's his pet monkey named Abu, were sitting on a rooftop. They were looking down on the marketplace at Agrabah. Now that's the name of a town in India. Suddenly, Aladdin noticed a lovely young woman. Now, let's see, I think this is she right here. She seemed to be lost. She took an apple from a vendor's cart. When the angry vendor demanded payment, which the young woman didn't have, Aladdin and Abu rushed over to help her. Thank you, kind sir, Aladdin said to the vendor. Thank you for finding my sister. He quickly led the young woman away. I think he's pretending she's his sister, but we know she really isn't. This is your first time in the marketplace, isn't it? Asked Aladdin. I'm running away, the young woman exclaimed. My father is trying to force me to get married. Suddenly, the palace guards appeared and arrested Aladdin. When the young woman demanded that they release Aladdin, the guards found out that she was Princess Jasmine, the Sultan's daughter. The guards explained to her that Jafar, her father's advisor, had ordered Aladdin's capture. Princess Jasmine returned to the palace and ordered Jafar to release Aladdin. Jafar told her that the young man had been killed. Oh, I think he's lying. But Aladdin was not dead. Jafar was keeping him alive because he had learned that Aladdin was the only person worthy to enter the Cave of Wonders. It was Aladdin who could bring the magic lamp to Jafar. Then, at last, Jafar would use it to become Sultan. Disguised as an old man, Jafar took Aladdin to the Cave of Wonders. The sleeping tiger god awoke. Proceed, he said. Touch nothing but the lamp. Aladdin and Abu gasped as they saw all the gold and all the jewels that were in the cavern. Don't touch anything, Abu, Aladdin warned. Then just as Aladdin found the magic lamp and scooped it up, Abu touched a huge glittering jewel. With a loud rumble, the cave began to collapse. Frantic, Aladdin and Abu scrambled back toward the entrance where Jafar was waiting. Help me, shouted Aladdin. But Jafar refused, and Aladdin and Abu tumbled back down into the dark, dark cavern. Aladdin feared they were trapped forever, but Abu still had the lamp. Aladdin took the old lamp and tried to rub off some of the dust. Poof! In a flash of colorful swirling smoke, a gigantic genie appeared. "Say, you don't look like my last master," he said to Aladdin, "but you still have 3 wishes, and no more wishing for more wishes." See, he only gets 3 wishes. Aladdin was stunned. 3 wishes. He intended to make very good use of those wishes. But first, he tricked the genie into whisking them out of the cave on a magic carpet. Here's the magic carpet. We've got the genie, Aladdin, and Abu. Unsure of what to wish for first, Aladdin asked the genie what he would wish for. Surprised at the question, the genie replied, "I would wish for freedom." So Aladdin promised to use his 3rd wish to set the genie free, but his first wish was to be a prince so that he could marry Princess Jasmine. At the same time, in the palace at Agrabah, Jafar had used his serpent staff to hypnotize the Sultan. The poor Sultan was about to agree that Jafar could marry Jasmine. Suddenly, they heard the sounds of a parade. The spell was broken, and the Sultan rushed to the balcony in time to see the arrival of a grand prince. Here's the prince, but we know that's not really a prince. It's really Aladdin, isn't it? It was Aladdin. The genie had granted the young man his first wish. Aladdin entered the throne room. "Your Majesty," he said, bowing to the Sultan, "I am Prince Ali Ababawa. I have come to seek your daughter's hand in marriage." The Sultan was thrilled. The law stated that Jasmine must marry a prince before her next birthday, which was only a few days away. But the princess did not want to marry Prince Ali. She was not in love with him at all. Prince Ali offered the princess a ride on the magic carpet, hoping to win her love. During the magical journey, Princess Jasmine realized that Prince Ali was the young man who had rescued her in the marketplace. That starry night, Aladdin and Princess Jasmine fell in love. But later that night, Jafar had Prince Ali captured and thrown into the sea. He was making sure that Prince Ali would not marry Jasmine and foil Jafar's own evil plans to marry her himself. Luckily, Aladdin had the magic lamp with him. He summoned the genie and asked for his 2nd wish. To save his life. I guess that's what I would wish for, too. The genie quickly transported Aladdin back to the palace in Agrabah. Now that Prince Ali was out of the way, Jafar was determined to marry Princess Jasmine. "I will never marry you, Jafar," cried Jasmine. "Papa, I choose Prince Ali." But once again, the Sultan was under Jafar's spell, and he ordered his daughter to marry Jafar. The princess was suspicious. "Papa, what's wrong with you?" she asked. Suddenly, Aladdin burst into the throne room and smashed Jafar's serpent staff. "He's been controlling you with this, Your Highness," said Aladdin. Immediately, the spell was broken. "Traitor!" shouted the Sultan. "Guards, arrest Jafar." But before the guards could capture him, Jafar escaped to his secret laboratory. Despite his hasty exit, Jafar had seen that Prince Ali was carrying the magic lamp. Prince Ali was really Aladdin, Jafar ordered Iago, his parrot, to steal the lamp. When Iago returned, Jafar made the genie appear. "I wish to be Sultan," he demanded. The moment had come for the Sultan to announce the wedding of Princess Jasmine and Prince Ali Ababawa. A cheering crowd had gathered in front of the palace. Suddenly Jafar appeared in the Sultan's robes. The crowd gasped. There's Jafar. You can see from his face that's not the Sultan. "Genie, what have you done?" Aladdin shouted. "Sorry, kid," said the genie sadly. "I got a new master now." And see, the genie's got to do what his master tells him to do. Then Jafar made his second wish. He wanted to be the most powerful sorcerer in the world. Jafar the sorcerer lost no time turning Prince Ali back into Aladdin. Jasmine could not believe her eyes. "Jasmine, I'm sorry," cried Aladdin. "I'm not a prince. I can't marry you." Finally, Jafar banished Aladdin to the ends of the earth. When Aladdin found himself 1,000,000 miles from nowhere, he was glad that Abu and the magic carpet were still with him. "Back to Agrabah," he shouted to the carpet, "as fast as you can go." And here's the carpet right here, standing on its legs, it looks like. Jafar was in the palace throne room, enjoying his newfound power. When Aladdin appeared, "How many times do I have to destroy you, boy?" he roared. "You cowardly snake," Aladdin snapped. "Cowardly snake," shouted Jafar. With a loud hiss, he turned himself into a giant cobra. "Without the genie, boy, you're nothing," said Jafar, laughing. Boy, that is an evil-looking face, isn't it? Looking up at the power-hungry Jafar, Aladdin got an idea. "The genie has more power than you'll ever have," he jeered. "Yes, yes," hissed Jafar, "you're right. I'm ready to make my third wish. I wish to be a genie." The moment Jafar turned into a genie, Aladdin smiled. Jafar had forgotten that a genie must live in a lamp. He and Iago disappeared into their own magic lamp. He had to go all the way and go down and live in that lamp. The Sultan was overjoyed. That very day he changed the law so that Jasmine could marry the man she chose, and she chose Aladdin. And what did Aladdin do with his third wish? Well, what do you think? He kept his promise, and he wished for the genie's freedom. "Look out, world!" exclaimed the genie. "Here I come. I'm free." Looks like he's ready to go on vacation, complete with his golf clubs there. And that is the end of that story. Now the next one is about called The Little Black Dog. And it's by a gentleman by the name of J.B. Spooner and illustrated by Terry Lambs Seeley. It's a nice looking picture. There's the dog and there's a boat right there. It looks like he's sitting near a window with sailboats in the background. Now, I think I'll take this fly cover off. It'll just be easier to read the book without it. And we'll open the book. Okay, here we go. Yes, this story definitely takes place near water with a lot of sailing boats. Here's a wonderful looking sailing boat. You can see the mast up high. And here's some other smaller sailing boats. Of all the boats in Vineyard Haven Harbor on the island of Martha's Vineyard, the grandest by far was the topsail schooner Shenandoah. And this schooner was called Shenandoah. She was the queen of the harbor and the love of her captain's life. Captain Douglas lived alone in a big old house overlooking the harbor. He had lived alone for a long time, and he liked it that way. One stormy night in early spring, the captain was in his warm kitchen when the back door flew open. In came his friend Eddie, wet and windblown from the northeast gale raging in the harbor. "Brought you something," he announced, even before the captain could close the door. "She's an orphan," said Eddie, handing him a small black puppy from under his coat. "I found her in a mud puddle. If you can't find a home for her, just take her to the pound. I've got to go. The ferry's leaving for the mainland." And he hurried out the door. Now, Martha's Vineyard is an island off the coast of Massachusetts, and it's a nice place to go and visit some in the summertime, especially. The captain stood there for a moment, jutting out his lower jaw the way he always did when he was thinking. He held the wet little puppy at arm's length up to the kitchen light. "Now, what am I supposed to do with the likes of you?" he said, as he looked at the shivering pup. The little black dog squinted at the bright light and yawned. The captain spread some newspapers down on the floor, wrapped an old blanket around her, poured some milk into a cereal bowl. "This berth is only for tonight," the captain warned as she lapped up the milk. The puppy yawned again and went to sleep. Well, several days went by. The captain asked everyone who stopped in if they knew of a home for the orphaned pup, but no one did. Bernie, who worked for the steamship company, had ferried tourists to and from the mainland, came by often. He liked the little black dog. "Why don't you keep her?" he asked the captain. "You've got plenty of room in this big old house. She'd be good company." "I don't need the company," said the captain. "Besides, Bernie, you know I'm on the Shenandoah half the year, and that's no place for a dog. She would just be in the way." Then Mrs. Winslow from next door had an idea. "My daughter in New York City is looking for a dog. Maybe she'll take the pup when she visits this summer. Shall I ask her?" "Good idea," answered Bernie quickly. "He can keep her till then." The captain glared at him. "Ah, she won't be any trouble," insisted Bernie. "How can anything that little be in the way?" The captain jutted out his lower jaw. "Well," he said finally, "I guess she can stay in the kitchen." Within weeks, the black dog had outgrown the kitchen. Summer was approaching, and the captain left each morning to fit out the Shenandoah for the season. Every evening he came home to find some new mischief. Yes, little puppy dogs do get into mischief when they're left alone. One day, the puppy found a huge mountain of cloth tucked away in the back corner of the house. She was busy pulling and tugging and ripping and tearing when the captain returned. "No," yelled the captain, "not my sails! Bad dog!" The puppy was so startled she yelped and ran down the hall and into the front parlor where she never had been before. She was probably frightened by being yelled at. Oh, and this looks like it's the front parlor. It was cold and dark, and the shadows on the wall frightened her even more. As the captain came up behind her, she piddled on the oriental rug. "No," he shouted, "not my rug! Bad, bad dog!" You can see a lot of things in this picture. There's a model of the sailboat. Here's a piano, fireplace. Well, somehow the little black dog just couldn't keep out of trouble. She chewed on the captain's rolled-up charts. She knocked over his scrimshaw, which is a kind of carving. She even gnawed on his favorite boots. "Oh, no, no," he roared. "Not my boots, too." At the end of the day, the captain always found her lying on the sea chest by the window in the upstairs hall, gazing down at the waterfront. "Well," the captain sighed, "at least you know a good spot when you see it." Oh, it looks like they're rowing in the boat together now. The next morning, the weather turned warm. "Come on," the captain said to the pup. "I have work to do, and I can't leave you here to wreck the place. Let's see if you're any better on board ships." Down they went to the beach, past the steamboat dock to the coastwise wharf. The captain dragged one of the skiffs into the water, and without being told, the little black dog hopped right into the bow. They rowed out to the Shenandoah. Here's the Shenandoah. Here's the rowboat they're in. Page turning troubles again. They sometimes stick together. As they came alongside, the captain lifted the little black dog through one of the gun ports and onto the deck. "Now stay out of trouble," he said, climbing over the side, "and stay out of the way." The little black dog wagged his tail. The captain moved easily about the deck, checking the gear and coiled lines. The little black dog peered through the hatches to the cabins below. The whole world seemed to rise and fall beneath her feet. "You're just getting your sea legs," the captain reassured her as he disappeared down the companionway. The little black dog tried to follow him, but the ladder was too steep. See, the captain's going down a ladder right here. She barked, and the captain came back and carried her below. In the main dining salon, two long, shiny tables rocked gently back and forth. There's a table right there and right there. While the kerosene lamps overhead moved with the same rhythm. In the cabins, each bunk had its own navy wool blanket, ticking striped pillow, and white enameled wash basin. In the galley was an enormous iron tub that took up half the room. Everywhere was the smell of pine tar, varnish, and damp salt air. Those are the smells you would find if you were on a ship, particularly a sailing ship. By the time they had to leave, the little black dog had found her favorite spots. While the captain went forward to check the anchor chain, the little black dog jumped all by herself through the open gun port into the waiting skiff below. "Well, what do you know?" the captain exclaimed. "You're not a house dog. You're a sea dog." And for the first time since Eddie brought the wet little bundle into the house, the captain gave the black dog a nice big pat on the head. Her tail wagged faster and wider than ever. From then on, the captain and the black dog went out to the Shenandoah every day. The crew liked having her on board. She knew where to go when the boat was coming about. She knew which side was to leeward and which side was windward. She knew which portholes had bunks right beneath them, so she could get below by herself. She was never any trouble, and she was never in the way. One day, the captain left the little black dog at home while he went to a meeting at the town hall. When he got back, he found a note on the kitchen table. "Good news, Captain Douglas. My daughter from New York was here and just fell in love with your black dog. She had to make the 2 o'clock ferry, and we couldn't find you, so we took her. I knew you wouldn't mind. If it doesn't work out, she promised to find her another home. Signed, Mariana Winslow." Well, the captain read the note over and over. He had forgotten all about Mrs. Winslow's daughter. They'd taken the black dog to New York City. He looked at the empty place by the stove and the shred of sail he'd given her to chew on. Then he looked at the clock. It was 1:45. Down on the steamboat dock, Bernie was surprised to see the black dog in the back seat of a lady's car. "Hey, are you taking the captain's pup home with you?" he asked, as he reached in the back to pet his friend. "Yes," replied the woman politely. "She's my new watchdog." "Well, I didn't think he'd do it, but good luck to you." He sighed and waved her onto the ferry. So Martha's Island, because it's an island and you want to drive on over there, you have to take a ferry, a boat, and this is what the ferry boat looks like. It takes people and cars. As the last car was being loaded, Bernie glanced down the beach and saw the captain hurrying toward them. The ferry sounded its horn, and the men on the dock threw off the thick ropes. The captain started waving his arms. Bernie knew something was wrong, and then he understood. "Hold it," he shouted. "Stop the engines." He disappeared aboard the ferry, shaking his head and muttering. A few minutes later, Bernie reappeared with the black dog squirming in his arms. "Guess I got something here that belongs to you," he said, handing the captain the excited pup. "But there's only one problem." "What's that?" asked the captain, still a little out of breath. "If you're going to keep her, you have to name her." The captain jutted out his lower jaw. The black dog licked it. "That's easy. I'm going to call her Black Dog. That's what she's used to, and it suits her just fine." And there's the captain with his black dog. I thought that was a very pleasant story. I hope you enjoyed it as well. And now that's all we're going to read for today. I just want to remind you about upcoming events. Excuse me while I find my papers having to do with that. They're on the other side of my table here. First of all, on September 10th, which is a Friday, the library is celebrating its 20th year anniversary. We're going to have live entertainment with Mr. Andrew Beringer. It will be at the Upper Chichester Township Municipal Building on Fury Road, and it will be at 5 p.m. It will coincide with our annual book sale, which would be going on that week as well. We're going to have food trucks there so that people can come and buy their dinner if they wish. And the Delco Cruisers will be there. It's an automobile show of older cars that sometimes maybe perhaps your older brothers or your dads might be interested in seeing. So come to our celebration on Friday the 10th. Then, of course, there is our book sale, which starts Wednesday, September the 8th, and goes through Saturday, September the 11th. Most days, the book sale is from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. On Saturday, it does stop at 3 p.m. So we hope to see you there, and I'm going to say goodbye to you today, and I'll see you next week.